This story is for my mother, father, and brother, who are perfect team member of my life. My story is about death. I was caught in front of death. Of course, even now I am. I always had a scary of lose someone. I don't know if I can say it this way, but a lot of people died suddenly. According to the National Statistical Office, average 767 people died a day in Korea. Cancer, traffic accident, even walking down the street. People suddenly die. I'm not sure I could love my destiny, God, or life if I lose someone today or suddenly. As we court, I sometimes think of the worst thing that could happen to me. Actually, not to me, but to my family or my friend's family or someone's loves. Some might think it was a really useless worry, but sometimes these terrible feelings slowly began to dawn on me, and I couldn't run away from it. Surprisingly, I found that the core in me was actually really brave when this terrible thing happened in real world. It's January of this year. My father was diagnosed with cancer. He had a health checkup earlier this year, and 2 weeks later, the doctor at the health center called my father in a hurry. And he said, there is a large tumor on your lung, and it's 4.7 centimeter tumor. My father asked, so how long can I live? And doctor answered, hey, Mr. Gang, there's no time to say sorry for you. Go home now and get your affairs in order and go to the bigger hospital like Severance in Sinchon or Samsung Hospital in Gangnam. It was the most powerful words of doctors for prepared to die soon that I had never heard of, even in the dramas or movies. It means to try and tell your kids everything you thought you'd have the next 10 years, to tell them in just a few months. And it means to make sure everything is buttoned up so that it will be as easy as possible for your family. It means to say his goodbyes. My family all came up to Seoul, where I live now, and we have been together for a hell of 2 weeks in a complete family that we had not been able to do for the past 2 years except for holidays. We lived with that diagnosis 3 weeks. My father is not a Steve-Jobs, who are very rich and famous, so he had a biopsy 3 weeks after having been diagnosed, where they stuck an endoscope down his throat and into his airway and put a needle deep into his lung and got a few cells from the tumor. Except for my family, the time of the world had flowed as usual. So my mom and brother had to way back to Busan for their usual life, and only my father and I left in Seoul. It was Friday morning. I was preparing for work as usual, and it was maybe second day of February. My father got a call in the morning saying, your tumor turned out to be a very rare form of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis, in Korean, it's 결핵. Tuberculosis is usually not a tumor, but my father's tuberculosis was a kind of tumor that produced a very similar form of tumor from the lung cancer. My father has been taking medication steadily for the next 6 months, and thankfully he's fine now. This was the closest I've been to facing real scary of death. And I hope it's the closest my family get for a few more decades. Having lived through it, I can now say this to you with a bit more certainty when someone's death was a scary monster that has bullied me in my imagination. No one wants to die, you know. Even my father, who is Christian, who want to go to heaven, though he don't want to die to get there. And yet, this is the destination we all share. No one has ever escaped it, and that is as it should be. Having lived through this cancer thing and court life, I think I know that death is the kind of old future that we can prepare for because we are alive. It's very likely the single best present of life. You might know that there is a famous song named Amorufaty. It's Latin praise for love of fate. The Amorufaty is one of the ideas of German philosopher Nietzsche, and it means that everything happens in your life, including pain, loss, good and bad, is destiny, that you accept it and love it. And the Amorufaty is used to describe your attitude toward it. Not just take the bad things in your life, but rather to affirm it and accept it as your own. And to love it can raise your originality and creativity. Therefore, it is the claim of those who believe this idea that their destiny should be pioneered, not to be afraid or rejected. You have the power. You have the strength to love and pioneer the all trials and errors and love and loss that you can imagine that life will give you. Don't be afraid of whatever you thought. Amorufaty. And this story is for my dad and mom. So, hi, mom and dad. If you don't mind, can I get a tattoo in my arm with this message? Please. Thank you.